Okay, Cyberpunk 2077, does it run on a 1070 Ti? Okay, short answer, so that you can go and quickly play the game and then come back another day. Just make sure you subscribe. The short answer is yes, up to 1440p medium settings, and with the following things turned on: film grain, chromatic aberration, and depth of field. These are the three things I live on no matter how low I go in terms of my settings, because this adds a lot of graphical fidelity to the game without taxing your GPU too much. I find that adding these three settings add a lot of, quality to the graphics that you get, and as a result, the game becomes more immersive when you do this. So make sure you turn these settings on, even if you're on low, struggling to get FPS, because you can turn down the other settings all to the lowest, but if you leave these on, the game still looks very moody, looks very cinematic, looks very environmental, and it looks much better with these on, no matter what you're doing. So leave these three settings on. So now that you've gotten the information you need, ahoy, go play it. Just make sure you're not playing on 4K, and if you're on 1440p, prepare to lower the settings a little bit. Okay, so let's go into detail as to the frame rates that I was getting with this game. So the frame rate I was getting with 1440p, and the settings that I kind of settled on was medium, with the following things enabled, like the things that I talked about enabled. Motion blur was obviously off, but depth of field, chromatic aberration, lens flares, and film grain were all on, and apart from that, everything else was stock medium preset, and I found it to be an extremely enjoyable experience because it gave me about 30 something to 40 FPS consistently. Now, some people who are frame rate elitists might be like, that is too low for me, and I can understand if you think that way, sure. But for me, I didn't really care about the absolute frame rate too much, so long as it was smooth, and that was greatly helped by the fact I'm using a FreeSync monitor, variable refresh rate, because I wanted the game to look as good as possible. This game is all about story building, world immersion, and immersing yourself, less so about the action and the FPS part of things, because that is a big part of it, but I don't find it to be the biggest appeal of the game to me. So having it looking the best it can be is the most important for me. So 1070 Ti, that's the settings I use. Now, if you wanted higher frame rates and 1440p, you can turn everything down to low, and you would get about 40 something to 50 FPS depending on what you're doing. If you're in a fight, it might drop to 40, but it never really dipped below 39 and below. It was very consistently 40 and above. Now, I don't have any graphs and recordings for now. Maybe in the future I'll do more detailed benchmarks, but because I have to work and stuff, I can't actually give you exactly everything correct and stuff on a graph. I don't have the manpower like LTT, so you just gotta take my word on it. Trust me, I've been playing this game for 6-7 hours. I'm really tired, so I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so the next thing is 1080p. I've said that 1080p is perfectly doable, and it absolutely is. Of course, you're not going to be cranking out ultra settings with this game at 60, 144 Hz. No way in hell. But you're going to be able to play ultra settings with this game on 1080p, no problem at all. You're going to have to deal with, 30 something to 40 something FPS depending on what you're doing, but you can crank everything, and I mean everything, and have a good time with 1080p. But the thing is, if you are a smoothness kind of guy, turning it down to high will generally net you good results of about 40 to 50 FPS, and if you turn it down to medium, which is the settings I use for 1440p, and you leave the film grain, aberration, depth of field, and lens flare on, as I recommend you wholeheartedly do, you get a pretty good 60 to 70 FPS, which is definitely enough, definitely good for a good time. So 1080p personally on a 1070 Ti, it's out of the question. It's gonna be a great experience, and the game looks very nice even at medium settings, so there's no worry there. Even at low settings, it looks very nice as long as you leave the film grain, chromatic aberration, depth of field, and lens flares on. Trust me. Of course, I wish I had a 3080 and I could blast everything at full settings, but I don't think it's a wise financial decision for everyone to buy the fanciest GPUs. It's not for me, that's for sure, even if today's payday. So, sometimes it's okay to sacrifice the experience, because the game is still good no matter what graphics you're running it at. It's still a great story, it's still got great gameplay, it's still got great world design. Sure, it's still a bit of a glitchy, buggy mess, but I'm sure patches will come in to fix some of the T-posing that happens and all that stuff, because they have had a good track record of keeping the games bug-free. So fingers crossed it gets improved with certain updates. But if you want to play a game right now, make sure you update your GPU drivers, because it fixes a lot of graphical issues and it fixes a lot of the choppiness that you'll get before you update your drivers. Make sure you update your drivers. Once you've done that, you're going to have a pretty darn good experience with Cyberpunk 2077 on a GTX 1070 Ti, assuming you're not too elitist with your graphics options or your resolutions. It's really more than enough. Okay, it's not more than enough, it's really enough. So if you have a 1070 Ti and above, you're going to have a good time. Trust me, just go have fun. Games are about the gameplay, are about the story, they're about the fun. They're not about the graphics only. They're far from just about the graphics. So go and have fun. Cyberpunk 2077. I'm gonna go play now. The time now is 5:04. I'm gonna get in some games, get a bit of gameplay in after I edit this video, and then I have to go to work. Don't tell my parents. Thank you guys so much for watching though. I hope you guys found this helpful. Like, subscribe, you know the YouTube drill. Follow me on Instagram and join my Discord if you have any questions, any further questions you want to ask about like the performance of the 1070 Ti with this whole game, because I'll be able to reply you more in depth on those platforms. See you guys next time though. Goodbye.